Okay, get ready, because today we're diving deep into something pretty interesting. We're
That is.
talking Elon Musk,
Oh, really?
but not his usual stuff like SpaceX or Tesla.
Yeah.
This time it's about something a lot closer to home for millions of Americans.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Social Security.
Hmm. That's a big one.
Yeah, you always hear people saying it's the third rail of politics.
Touch it and you get zapped.
Right, exactly.
But changes do happen.
All the time.
And it's important for everyone to understand, not just folks who are retired, but what's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And what we found in our sources is pretty surprising.
Like what?
So Elon Musk, he leads this agency called the Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE, right?
Yeah, DOGE.
I've heard of them.
And they've been granted access to something really important, the U.S. Treasury's federal payment system.
Whoa, that's the system that handles trillions of dollars every year,
Trillions, yeah.
including all those Social Security checks.
Yep.
Okay, so what's so unusual about that?
Well, in the past, access to that system has always been managed by career civil servants.
People who've spent their whole careers working in government.
Exactly.
So having Musk's agency involved, it's a pretty big shift.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder why the change was made in the first place.
I can see why that would raise some eyebrows.
And here's another piece of the puzzle from our sources. Some Republican lawmakers are looking to Musk and his co-lead at DOGE, Vivek Ramaswamy,
Oh, Ramaswamy, yeah.
as key advisors on, you guessed it, government spending.
Interesting. And I bet you can guess where this is going.
Oh yeah, this is where those third rail sparks start flying.
So DOGE, their whole mission is to reduce federal spending, right?
Cut costs wherever possible.
And what's one of the biggest government expenses?
Social Security.
Bingo.
So giving Musk's agency access to the payment system.
Makes you wonder what their plans for Social Security might be.
Right. Especially since Musk himself hasn't exactly been singing Social Security's praises.
What do you mean?
He's actually endorsed views that call Social Security a deceptive tax plan.
Deceptive tax plan. That's a loaded phrase.
For sure.
I think to understand that, we need to talk about this idea of privatization.
Yeah, that seems to be at the heart of a lot of the debate around Social Security these days.
Privatization has been a politically charged topic for a long time.
For decades, really.
And some people see Musk's stance as aligning with that push to privatize the system.
Which could mean huge changes for retirees.
Yeah, we're talking about potentially less guaranteed money, more reliance on the stock market.
Which can be pretty risky, especially for folks on a fixed income.
Exactly. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there is, and that's exactly what we're going to do next. All right, so we've been laying out this connection with Elon Musk, DOGE, and Social Security, but how does this all actually impact people, those millions of Americans who rely on Social Security every month?
Yeah, that's what it all boils down to, right? For a lot of seniors, Social Security, it's not just some extra cash, it's their lifeline.
It keeps a roof over their heads, food on the table.
Exactly. Housing, food, healthcare even.
So if things change, if there are cuts to the program, are we talking like serious financial trouble for a lot of people?
It's definitely a possibility, and even if we don't see those big sweeping cuts, even small changes can make a big difference.
Like what kinds of small changes?
Well, you could change who's eligible, tweak the formula for calculating benefits.
And that would impact how much money people actually get each month.
Exactly. It might not seem like a lot on paper, but it can have a ripple effect on people's lives.
Yeah, it's easy to forget sometimes when you talk about policy and numbers that this is about real people.
Real people who worked their whole lives, paid into the system, and are now counting on that money.
They were made a promise, basically.
Exactly. A promise of security and retirement, and it's paid for by their payroll taxes. It's not like it's a handout or anything.
Right, they earned it.
Right, they earned it, and it feels like that promise is being questioned more and more these days.
Well, Social Security has always been kind of a hot topic.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But having someone like Musk involve someone who's openly critical of government spending and now has access to the payment system through DOGE, it adds a whole new layer to the conversation.
Speaking of which, what exactly is privatization? I mean, how would that even work if we got rid of the current system?
So in a nutshell, privatization means taking that guarantee away, that guaranteed amount the government provides, and instead you'd be responsible for investing your own retirement savings.
So like managing your own 401k or something?
Yeah, similar to that, but instead of getting that steady check from the government each month, you're relying on your investments to do well.
And what if they don't? Well, that's the risk. So some people might like the idea of having control over their own money. Maybe they think they could do better than the government.
Sure, and some proponents of privatization, they'll argue that it could potentially lead to higher returns, more choices for individuals.
But it sounds pretty risky, like if the market crashes or something.
And that's the main argument against it, right? The stock market is unpredictable, it goes up and down, and relying on it for your retirement income could be really dangerous, especially if you're close to retirement or already retired.
So it sounds like there are no easy answers here. Privatization has some potential upsides, but it's a big gamble, especially for folks who aren't financially savvy or who don't have a lot of savings.
You got it. And that's why this whole discussion about changing Social Security needs to be handled really carefully. We need to weigh those potential benefits against the risks, and any changes need to be made with everyone in mind, not just a select few.
That's a great point. It feels like we're at a turning point here for Social Security, like big changes could be coming.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, and that's why it's so important for people to pay attention, to stay informed, because the future of Social Security, it impacts all of us, so we need to make sure our voices are heard.
All right, so we've talked about risks and uncertainties, but what about solutions? Is there anything that can be done to make sure Social Security is around for the long haul?
Well, there's no quick fix, but there are definitely some options out there, and that's what we'll explore next.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential risks to Social Security, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about solutions.
Yeah, what can we actually do to make sure Social Security is still around in the future?
Right, because it doesn't sound like there's any easy fix.
There's no magic bullet, no, but there are definitely some options out there.
Like what?
Well, one approach is to focus on bringing in more money, increasing the program's revenue.
Okay, how do we do that?
One idea that's been floated is raising the payroll tax cap.
Oh yeah, the cap. Remind me how that works again.
So right now, only a certain amount of your income is subject to Social Security taxes.
Anything above that cap, you don't pay Social Security taxes on.
Exactly. And that cap, it gets adjusted every year, but raising it or even getting rid of it completely, that would bring in a lot more money.
So basically, higher earners would be contributing more to the system.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be controversial.
Definitely. But it's one option that's been proposed.
What else is on the table?
Another idea is to gradually increase the full retirement age.
So instead of being able to collect full benefits at, say, 67, you might have to wait until 68 or even later.
Right. The thinking is that people are living longer, healthier lives, so it makes sense to adjust the retirement age to reflect that.
But wouldn't that be tough on people who can't physically work longer?
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and it's definitely something that needs to be considered carefully.
So we've got increasing revenue, adjusting the retirement age. What about this whole privatization thing we've been talking about?
Privatization, that's a much more drastic approach.
And riskier, right?
Definitely, as we've talked about, it shifts the burden of retirement security away from that guaranteed system and puts it on the individual.
And their investments.
Exactly. So instead of that steady check from the government, you're basically hoping that your investments perform well enough to cover your expenses in retirement.
And if they don't,
Then you could be in trouble, especially if you're close to retirement or already retired.
man, it's a lot to think about, and it feels like there's so much complexity when it comes to Social Security.
There really is, and that's why it's so important to stay informed, to really understand these issues and how they could impact you personally.
So what's the bottom line for our listeners? What should they take away from all of this?
The most important thing is to do your research. Don't just take what politicians or the media are telling you at face value. Dig deeper,
Don't just blindly trust what you hear.
right? Look into the different proposals, understand the arguments for and against them, and then form your own opinions.
And then what?
Talk to people about it, your family, your friends, your colleagues. Let's get these conversations going.
And reach out to our elected officials.
Absolutely. Let them know what you think, what you're concerned about.
Because this isn't just about retirees, it's about all of us.
It really is. It's about what kind of society we want to live in. A society that takes care of its people, especially those who are most vulnerable.
Well said. So the future of Social Security, it's kind of up in the air right now.
In a way, yeah, but it's also in our hands if we stay informed, if we talk about these issues, if we advocate for solutions that work for everyone, then we can shape a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive today. And remember, this conversation doesn't end here. Keep learning, keep talking, and keep pushing for a better future.
Couldn't agree more.